Okay, so picture this. A prisoner, exiled for a pretty serious crime, is floating down a river. But instead of looking scared or sad, he looks calm, content even. That's the puzzle at the heart of Mori Ōgai's classic Japanese story, the Takase boat. And it's a story that's going to make us question what we think we know about right, wrong, and justice. So we start on this small boat, making its way down the Takase River in Old Kyoto. On board, there's a guard and a prisoner he's escorting into exile. But something's off. The guard keeps looking over at the prisoner, and he just can't get over his expression. It's not anger, it's not sadness, it's this deep, peaceful serenity. And that right there is the big question, isn't it? Why is this man, Kisuke, who's basically lost everything, so completely at peace? This one single question is what pulls us into the story, and it forces the guard, and us really, to face some pretty tough truths. So let's really dive into this paradox, because for the guard, a guy named Shōbei, this whole situation just doesn't add up. I mean, Shōbei's done this job 100 times. He knows the drill. He expects criminals to be a mess, crying, maybe angry, definitely mourning the life they're being forced to leave behind. But Kisuke, he's the total opposite. He's polite, he's quiet, he almost seems happy about it. And this contrast just starts to completely unravel Shōbei's entire worldview. So Shōbei really becomes our stand-in here. He can't just let it go. Kisuke's calmness is a direct challenge to everything he believes about crime and punishment, about what it even means to be happy. He feels like he has to know, so he breaks the silence and asks the question that we're all thinking. And Kisuke's answer is, well, it's not what you'd expect. At first, it's surprisingly simple, and it has nothing to do with his crime, really. It has everything to do with a life of just unbelievable poverty. This is what he tells the guard. See, Kisuke has never known anything but back-breaking work from sunrise to sunset just to scrape by. He's never had savings, never had money he could truly call his own. So for him, this boat ride into exile, where he knows he'll at least get food, it doesn't feel like a punishment. It's actually a huge relief. So, what is this great treasure that has him so happy? It's a tiny stipend from the government to help him start his new life in exile. Get this. It's 200 mon. To us, that's practically nothing. But that's the whole point, right? Contentment is all relative. For a guy like Kisuke, who has lived with absolutely zero, this tiny amount of money is a symbol of security, of freedom he has never, ever known. It's the first time in his life he feels like he actually has something to build on, no matter how small. And this brings up a really core concept in Japanese philosophy, taru o shiru. It basically means knowing what is enough or being content with what you have. It's this incredible irony. Kisuke, who has nothing, has found this deep contentment, while Shōbei, the guard who has a stable life and family, is the one filled with anxiety and confusion. But as powerful as that idea is, it just doesn't feel like the whole picture. It explains why he's so calm, sure, but it doesn't explain the crime itself. What could a man like this have possibly done to get exiled for killing somebody? So Shōbei pushes a little more, and what he finds out is the real gut-wrenching heart of the story. And this leads us to the story's climax. This is where we learn the devastating truth about why Kisuke is even on this boat in the first place. Kisuke explains that he and his brother were orphans. They had no one else in the world but each other. But then his younger brother got terribly sick. It was an incurable illness, and it left him in constant, agonizing pain. So day in and day out, his brother would just plead with him to put him out of his misery. He saw himself as a burden, and his life was just pure, unending pain. He just wanted it to be over. Then one day, Kisuke comes home to an absolutely horrific scene. His brother, in a desperate attempt to end it all, had plunged a knife into his own throat. But he was so weak, the wound wasn't deep enough to kill him. It just made things so much worse. More pain, more bleeding. And with what little strength he had left, his brother looked at Kisuke and begged him to finish it. And in that moment, seeing the person he loved most in the world in that state, Kisuke made a choice. He took the knife and he ended his brother's suffering. And that's exactly when the authorities walked in. And just like that, the whole story shifts. This isn't about some weirdly happy criminal anymore. It's now a deep, profound moral dilemma. Was what he did murder? Or was it an act of mercy? This really lays the conflict bare. On one hand, you have the law. The law is black and white. It sees one thing. A man killed another man. That's homicide. Case closed. But from Kisuke's perspective, it was all about his intent. For him, it was an act of profound love, fulfilling his brother's final wish. So where the law sees a crime that needs punishing, Kisuke only sees an end to unbearable suffering. Now, you can imagine what's going through Shōbei's head after hearing this. His entire world has just been turned completely upside down. The clean lines he saw between right and wrong, just and unjust, have totally vanished. Now he's wrestling with these huge questions. His job is literally to enforce the state's judgment, but now, for the first time, he's starting to doubt if that judgment is right at all.
And the true genius of this story is that it absolutely refuses to give us an easy answer.
The boat just keeps floating down the river in total silence. Shōbei is left alone with his spinning thoughts, and Kisuke is left with his strange, quiet peace. The story doesn't tell you what to think. It just lays out this raw, incredibly complex human dilemma and forces you to sit in that uncomfortable space of not knowing the answer. And so, at the end of it all, the story leaves us with this final, haunting question. It challenges all of us to think beyond simple black and white rules, and to really consider those gray areas where real life just doesn't fit into neat little legal boxes. What does justice even mean in a situation like this? And who gets to be the one to decide? It's a question that was just as powerful a century ago as it is for us today.